We begin this episode with a frantic house staff looking for Gladys, calling her name all throughout the mansion. Larry wakes up his mother and informs her that Gladys has gone missing. She quickly wakes up and tells him, I hope she hasn't eloped. He expresses to her, based on the way that she's treated her, he wouldn't blame her. Next, we see Peggy's parents arriving at the Van Ryans with a black doctor by the name of Dr. Kirkland. They enter the Van Ryans' home and Agnes greets them and greets the doctor. He asks for a few supplies so he can treat Peggy. Mrs. Russell gets a note that informs her of Gladys's whereabouts. Mrs. Russell picks Gladys up from her little boyfriend in his mother's home. Mrs. Russell and Mrs. Carlton briefly discuss the matter. Mrs. Carlton tries to pull rank and says that her great-grandfather signed the Declaration of Independence. It is clear that Mrs. Russell doesn't give a fuck about that. I love the new money, folks. Next, we see that Daddy's home. Hey, Daddy's home. That's right, Mr. Russell arrives home. His footman, Churchill, somewhat informs him about the issue with Gladys. He has a meeting with a possible investor, J.P. Morgan, so he can assist him with the railroad expansion. He arrives home to Gladys and Bertha arguing about her not wanting to be engaged to the Duke. He and Bertha discuss the matter, and he reminds Bertha he said she can marry for love. Lay down the law, Daddy. Russell, lay it down. She argues her case and says that she's only trying to set her children up for success. Next, we see Aurora's husband is being an asshole and not answering her letters and solely coming home to get clothes. Once again, he demands a divorce. Ada tries to coerce the house staff to take the temperance pledge against drinking. Agnes informs her she's being forceful. The staff... Ada seems to be really pushy about this, but I get it. She's passionate. It happens. Next, we get a brief moment of the staff expressing their frustrations with serving both Ada and Agnes. I guess taking orders from both can be a bit confusing. Next, we see Peggy is doing better and seems to be quite fond of Dr. Kirkland during her checkup. Next, we see Gladys and Mr. Russell discuss the possibility of her marrying the Duke. She objects, but her father assures her he only wants the best for her and agrees to allow her boyfriend, Billy, to state his case for marriage. Bannister comes up to clear up the confusion about who's in charge. Aurora clears up the confusion by basically telling him that Ada's in charge. Next, we see that Marion hears her man's voice and gleefully enters the kitchen as Jack and Larry are discussing plans to present the clock invention to investors. He walks her out into the carriage and steals a kiss. They are so cute. Aurora proceeds with hosting her charity event. Suddenly, her trifling, soon-to-be ex-husband shows up with his new woman. Mrs. Astor takes notice and alerts Aurora. He's clearly doing this to embarrass her. At this event, we also see that Oscar meets up with his old boo thing, and he tells him he loves him and he believes in him. He offers to give Oscar money to invest so he can help him rebuild his reputation. Mrs. Russell and Mrs. Carlton run into each other, and Mrs. Carlton keeps pushing the issue of their children getting married. Bertha cuts her off and informs her if she keeps this up, George will see to it that Billy never gets another job and they will disinherit Gladys. Miss Carlton says you would do that to your own child. Mrs. Russell states I'm a woman who gets what she wants. Billy attempts to ask George for Gladys's hand in marriage, but he quickly has a change of heart and flees from the event with his mother. Next, we see George and Bertha continue to discuss the matter of Gladys marrying the Duke. Bertha makes her case for her good intentions. George tells her you can't expect her to marry a man she doesn't like. She further presses the issue by basically saying, but she hasn't given him a chance. I know she would. She could learn to love him. He asks, do I not have a say in what goes on in my children's life? And Bertha pulls her Uno card, I guess, and basically says, you don't get my opinion on the railroads, so you leave me to my business. I don't know about that. I think he needs to be involved. Ada tries to get Miriam to sign the temperance pledge. Miriam politely declines. and basically says she sees nothing wrong with having a drink with dinner after a long day. After visiting Peggy, the Scotts have a real conversation about race and her doctor's prejudices and refusal to treat their daughter. They bond with Mrs. Van Ryan on parenthood. While the Russells are waiting for the Duke's arrival, Gladys secretly meets Billy outside of the service entrance. He tells her their love is no longer practical and breaks up with Gladys. Gladys is heartbroken and cries in her brother's arms. Next, we see the Duke arrives with lawyers in tow and is clearly ready to discuss marrying Gladys. Gladys asks George, "What does this mean?" He simply tells her not to worry and he'll take care of it. And this is where the episode ends. This is another good episode. I love seeing like the Scotts and Mrs. Van Ryan bond of just being in parenthood, having a real conversation about race. Once again, I love that the show that doesn't ignore it. And I love that Agnes expresses to them that they were brought up to be mannerly to everyone, regardless of race. So you get to see where, her kindness to Miss Scott basically stems from. So I think that's pretty cool. I like that Miss Scott is getting, to know this doctor. Maybe things happen for a reason. So this doctor, Dr. Kirkland, has come into her life and is healing her. And clearly by like the trailer previews, they're gonna be going out on dates or at least getting to know each other more. So I think that's pretty cool. I like that Oscar met up with his old boyfriend. Hopefully they'll get back together secretly. But that is cool that he has his support and he's going to give him a little seed money to get him back on his feet. I want Oscar to win, but I also want Oscar to find that damn lady and get his mother's money back. So I really hope by the end of the season we'll get a solution on that. I hate that Billy got so defeated and basically gave up on love. And I feel that this is just gonna push Gladys into the arms of the Duke. Perhaps. We'll see what happens. But, I feel so bad for her. I really enjoyed this episode. Once again, I always appreciate the writing and the cinematography of this. I mean, the Gilded Age is just so well shot. And the costuming is just, so nice. Anywho, I rate this episode a solid A. If you like this review, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.